The Buddha's Enlightenment. Myra, the Lord of Death, contemplated himself as he stared over the beautiful mountain scenery. The forests of Nepal could not have looked better. His fate, however, did not look so great. Earlier that morning, the earth had spoken to him. "You must try with all your might to break Siddhartha's meditation," the earth had told him. Siddhartha was the Buddha-to-be, and he had just begun his meditation to realize enlightenment. "But why? I just wished the boy good luck as he walked up the steps to the temple." "I must be certain he is ready. If he makes it through the temptations, I will know." Then the earth stopped talking, and when Myra told everyone what it had told him to do, they were furious. "How dare you? You're just jealous that he's getting the seed of enlightenment, and you're not. You'll be a disgrace to everyone. The earth would never speak to you. You're the Lord of Death. Don't try to cover for yourself." Myra looked down in disappointment. His reputation was tarnished. However, the earth's wishes should be granted, for they always had a justified reason. If it wasn't for him, then he'd at least bring justice to the earth. He began walking up the steep staircase to the temple on top of the mountains. It was a long walk, but Myra had done it plenty of times. The sun was on the horizon by the time he reached the temple, casting devilish red light across the mountain. Myra found Siddhartha sitting in the middle of the temple in full meditation. He was a good person, and Myra prayed that Siddhartha's concentration didn't falter. The boy deserved the seed of enlightenment, but Myra had to do what he had to do. While climbing up the mountain, he thought of 3 ways on how he could tempt Siddhartha out of temptation. The first temptation would be seduction. He called on his 2 daughters, who appeared before him. They were young, and far more beautiful than any mortal. Their luscious black hair fell gently on their shoulders, and their hands were even laced with gold. "You must seduce him," Myra ordered, pointing to Siddhartha. His daughters wore a mischievous set of grins, and walked slowly, like a cat stalking prey, to the Buddha-to-be. They tried their usual tricks, but Siddhartha didn't even flinch. Their plump lips and long eyelashes did not get his attention. "It's okay, you 2. Go home." They disappeared, and Myra was once again alone with the boy. Myra's next idea was to attack Siddhartha with a vast army, but not really. He was going to make it sound like there was an intense battle going around him. That way Siddhartha's inner instincts might kick in to protect himself. He summoned a large group of demons and told them to run around the temple. "Make as much gruesome noise as you can, but whatever you do, don't hurt him," Myra hissed, knowing how much trouble he'd be in for killing a defenseless boy. The demons roared, they wrestled and rolled on the ground, screeching in the most absurd manner. It was a chaotic scene. After an hour, Myra decided it was enough. Okay, all of you gone." With a snap, all the demons vanished. Myra was grateful for the silence. He sat down in front of the boy, his head in his hands. Only one more temptation, and then he'd stop. He would tempt Siddhartha with his words. Myra let the night air sink in. There was a pause of silence. "You think you're ready for the seat of enlightenment? You?" Siddhartha continued to meditate. "I'd be better than you. At least I have some understanding of the world. You're just a common boy." It hurt Myra to say these words. He had so much faith in this young boy. "You're not ready. You still have so much to learn. I'll take your place until it's your time to be Buddha." Myra thought he saw Siddhartha twitch. "You're weak. You're breaking, and I can see it. Just give up already." Myra forgot how long he waited there. He waited for Siddhartha to move. Maybe even get up. But he stayed solid, not breaking his meditation. "Thank you, Myra," the earth spoke. "You have done what I've asked for. You may leave now." Myra did a small bow and walked out of the temple. It was a long walk down, especially when he knew there'd be many people at the bottom to scorn him. Sometimes people don't believe evil people can do good, justifiable deeds. It wasn't fair that they didn't trust him, but Myra knew there was no way of correcting an injustice that no one believed in. He had to accept that he'd forever be known as the villain in the Buddha story. The Kinniger. The Kinniger was a curious sort of person. Although he spent most of his time alone, he was known throughout Australia. This made Kinney extremely self-conscious, which only made him want to distance himself from the world even more. He was half human and half coal, a type of marsupial. "Ew, what is that thing? Get away from me, you monster!" It was tough for Kinney to make friends, which is all he really wanted. But a friendly person who looked like him was not accepted into society, and instead, horrible rumors were made about him. He sometimes could hear them from his little den. "Yeah, my friend said he nearly got killed by that Kinniger. It snarled at him and was making all sort of threatening moves," a kangaroo said to another kangaroo. Kinney couldn't help looking threatening. Being half coal and trying to walk on 2 legs made him look like a gangling mess. "Wow, really? I've heard some people aren't so lucky." The kangaroo went to go and explain the series of murders that had been happening recently. Of course, Kinniger was the obvious suspect for the gruesome murders, even though he was really the witness of them. The murderers, a crow and an owl, would always kill near his den for 2 reasons. 1, so it would give everyone a better reason to blame Kinney. 2, so they could make Kinniger's life even more miserable. Several times Kinney had been enjoying a beautiful sunny day in the desert when he'd stumble across them killing something. He tried to go stop it, but the crow and owl would just fly away. His tracks were the only ones left because the murderers could fly. The whole situation made Kinney downhearted and frustrated. It wasn't fair. Nothing in his life seemed just. He contemplated this for a bit. Maybe he could fix it. Kinney had an idea. He could bring justice into his life by seeking it himself. Kinney would meet with the townspeople and just talk over the whole situation. Let them insult his looks, but he didn't want to be known as a murderer. If he was lucky enough, he could even convince everyone that the crow and owl were the true suspects. Kinney stepped out of his cave into the harsh desert, heading into town where most of the animals lived. He hoped and prayed that maybe someone would see past his looks and listen to him. Otherwise, the crow and owl will keep on their killing spree. He passed by a watering hole on the way to town. Oddly, no one was there. In the scorching Australian heat, an animal could always be found at the watering hole. They'd always leave when Kinney arrived. At least now he could drink some water without being judged. Kinney went to go get a sip of water when he felt a heavy blow on his back. A crow and a large owl landed on him, making him fall to the sand. The wind was knocked out of Kinney as he laid on the ground, struggling for breath. He heard the crow and owl squawk with glee. "Ha! We did it!" the crow clucked. "This was easier than I thought." "Yeah, the town will preach us as heroes for the death of such a beast. We'll be more than off the hook. We'll be famous." Before Kinney could speak a word, the owl took one good slash at his neck. That's all it took. Kinney's vision darkened, and he didn't struggle. What was the point? He would be remembered as a legend, but for his looks and not his heart. Kinney closed his eyes. There would never be justice for him, or any of the other murder victims. Epilogue. History repeats itself. Society has 2 choices. It can either continue to repeat, or it can learn from its mistakes to stop injustices like these from happening. Someone doesn't need to be a god or some mythological monster to require justice. They can be a human like you or me. Life is not fair, but humans have the opportunity to be fair to each other, for each other. Thank you for listening. All the sources are linked below in MLA format, and I hope you enjoyed this audiobook. Sorry if you could hear my dog barking in the background, or just the poor quality of this iPhone. Again, I'm sorry, but thank you for listening. Have a good night.